Okay, will y'all pray with me? Holy Spirit, come, fall fresh upon us as we hear these ancient words and listen for their call in our times. And guide us in our wrestling of the biggest questions, O God, and help us to know you are here. Amen. Okay, so friends, over the past few weeks, we have returned to the spiritual wisdom of Mr. Rogers and his lessons about being a good neighbor. Lessons that center around radical acceptance and unconditional love. And today, I want to wrap up those lessons by considering how all of what Mr. Rogers taught and modeled creates belonging and sanctuary in this world. And how those teachings align so closely with what we have come to know about Jesus. Now, we all know that we are living in an anxious, noisy, and highly polarized world right now. And because of that, it is so very critical to have places of belonging and places of sanctuary. We're living in an era of intense political weariness, systemic fracturing, and deep isolation. We're living through a time of profound exhaustion and loneliness. And we're all feeling this in our bodies and in our hearts. And because of that, we all desperately need places where we belong. We all desperately need places of sanctuary. And when the outside world feels so intensely polarized, draining, and heavy, those places of belonging and sanctuary cease to be luxuries. And instead, they become an absolute necessity for our survival. When we become isolated and lonely, when we feel like our hearts are fracturing from the pain of seeing what is going on in our world, places of sanctuary and belonging are the protective shelters that keep our humanity intact. They are the essential buffers between despair and survival. Now, in a true place of sanctuary, unconditional belonging is the foundational bedrock that allows people to drop their defensive armor, to be vulnerable, and to feel safe. In true places of sanctuary, there is this explicit understanding that your right to exist, to be safe, and to be valued in that space is tied strictly to your humanity. Not your performance, not your productivity, not your perfection. And that is really, really unusual in our times. Because when a place of sanctuary offers unconditional belonging, it is completely subverting the conditional, transactional nature of the modern outside world. Also, in a place of belonging and sanctuary, you belong simply because you're present, simply because you are. You don't belong because you agree with everything or because you pass some sort of test. In a place of belonging and sanctuary, mistakes are normalized. And they lead to accountability and restoration, not exile and exclusion. And because in a place of sanctuary, perfection isn't demanded, there isn't panic or anxiety when folks express big, messy emotions. Others can simply sit alongside those with big, messy emotions and honor them and those emotions. without rushing in to fix them or shut them down. Authenticity and messiness are allowed and celebrated. Now, if all of those principles sound familiar to you, then you've been following along the past few weeks as we've looked deeper at Mr. Rogers' spiritual wisdom. Because we've talked about how he felt strongly that everyone is inherently valuable and that we are accepted without accomplishing anything and before doing anything. We've talked about how Mr. Rogers felt we should be accepted unconditionally for who we are in every moment. Well, all of those principles are signs of being a good neighbor and are critical components to have in a good neighborhood. And they're also critical components of places of belonging and places of sanctuary. And those sorts of places of good neighborhoods, places of belonging and sanctuaries are so very important, again, especially now, because they provide space to heal the wounds of our anxious and lonely and polarized society. Our society that divides us into boxes of us and them. Our society that runs at a go, 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 go pace, incentivizing productivity and outcomes. Places where we are unconditionally accepted, where we are welcomed for our inherent self-worth and affirmed and loved unconditionally, those places have the power to be radically transformative and healing, not only in our lives, but in our world. Now, Mr. Rogers believed that, quote, the space between the human beings can be hallowed ground, unquote. He recognized that the holy and sacred space that surrounds each and every being, he saw that and he recognized and he worked to create sacred spaces where relationships could flourish. And that hallowed, sacred ground could be nourished. Mr. Rogers called them neighborhoods, but they're truly places of belonging. They're truly places of sanctuary. In those holy and sacred places of belonging and sanctuary that Mr. Rogers was creating, each and every episode of his TV show aligns so very closely with Jesus' teaching and ministry, to love your neighbor as yourself. Mr. Rogers and Jesus shared a very similar ministry in that way, except that Jesus was the original disruptor of conditional belonging. And Mr. Rogers picked up the mantle in the 1960s. But regardless of the 2,000-year difference, both Mr. Rogers and Jesus emphasized radical empathy, the theology of presence, gracious hospitality, and unconditional love. They both decoupled human worth from productivity and status. In a deeply divided Roman Empire, Jesus practiced a theology of belonging before believing. And that was unusual. Belonging before believing. He looked at the marginalized, the broken, the exhausted, and the lonely, and his first move was always to bring them close, to welcome them, and to love them. Jesus understood that unconditional acceptance, loving, and belonging was the antidote to being outcast. And he built a movement centered upon belonging and sanctuary, where your worth was inherent simply because you were the beloved of God. Now fast forward to the 20th century, and Mr. Rogers was offering radical theological statements that were direct echoes of Jesus' teaching, all centered upon love of neighbor and self, all leading to unconditional acceptance, loving, and belonging. And when you think about the ministries of Jesus and Mr. Rogers, they have so many parallels in creating safe places of belonging and sanctuary. Both recognized that to heal a fractured, wounded society, we must create spaces where people feel safe, where people feel seen, and where people feel needed. And that's where I want to focus us as a Christ-inspired community of faith. Because I think we have a critical role to play in this neighborhood as a place of belonging and sanctuary right now. With all that is going on in the world. Because churches aren't just nice social clubs. They are vital infrastructure that keeps society stable and resilient and human. And when our macro systems are struggling or even failing, places of belonging and sanctuary like churches that offer unconditional love and welcome can provide the care essential to absorb the shock of the outside world. So look around right now at how many in our immediate community are struggling with isolation and weariness, with loneliness, and with everything that comes with polarization, and from seeing all of the injustices that are happening in our nation. So many are desperately in need of a place of belonging and sanctuary. So many are desperately in need of a place where they are unconditionally accepted, where they are affirmed for their inherent self-worth and loved unconditionally, where they're needed. And as a Christ-inspired community of faith, we have the power to be a place of belonging and sanctuary that is both radically transformative and healing. We have the ability to offer that sort of place where perfection isn't demanded and there aren't expectations of right answers or right beliefs. We have the capability to offer a place of belonging and sanctuary full of unconditional love, radical acceptance, and gracious welcome. We know that because that is what we have been doing and doing well for a long time. Look, we can't fix what is going on in our nation or global politics overnight. We can't. But we can continue to build a neighborhood here and now. We can continue to be good neighbors here and now. We can continue to offer a place of belonging and a place of sanctuary where through those doors and on that live stream, all are offered unconditional love and acceptance. All are seen and accepted. We can continue to do that to all who are currently here and to those who aren't here yet. But to reach those who aren't here yet, that means that each of us have to make sure that our neighbors, our community, know that they can find sanctuary and belonging within these doors. That means that we have to go out into the world and our community and offer an invitation to our neighbors in our community to come to this place of belonging and sanctuary. That means that we each have to be able to tell our neighbors in our community what principles of good neighboring and belonging and sanctuary that they can find here within these doors or on our live stream. This is a unique and special place of belonging and sanctuary. It's a place of radical welcoming, a place of unconditional love, a place of transformation, a place of healing. I know that because I have seen it, I have witnessed it, I have been a part of it. So let us rejoice in our neighborhood here and share it willingly and openly without hesitation or expectation, because there are so many right now in our immediate circles who are lonely, who are isolated, who are hurting, who are anxious, who are weary, who are in need of a place of belonging and sanctuary, and we can offer that. We do offer that. So let us go out into the world, into our communities, and into the neighborhoods, and invite and welcome and encourage. Let us continue to be a place of belonging and sanctuary here in Magnolia and online. Let us continue to say to all in the words of the prophet, Mr. Rogers, won't you be my neighbor? And follow through with radical acceptance, affirmation of inherent worth, and most of all, unconditional love. The world desperately needs that. Our community desperately needs that. So let that be so. Amen.